everybody. Welcome back to the Deadly Drop Podcast. Here we are, guys, almost to September.
Yep.
Episode
Close.
25.
I know, man.
Can't
Weather
come-
changing like that and getting cooler. It was nice.
Yeah, man. Mid-60s was
Yeah.
like, get in a tree now.
Right.
And the camera activity showed it, too. I mean, the deer were very responsive to it, so... Yeah.
I wish
Ready.
I got to see that. Kind of hard when the plan's all checked out and I can't get to see what pictures are coming across my camera.
Yeah. Yeah, when are you going to dump the rest of yours out? The first or something?
Yeah,
or?
around like the 1st and 2nd. So it's the start of that new month, and then as I go through the season, when it does come towards the end there, at least by like January, it'd be like the 1st or 2nd that I could just cut it and be done with it. So
Yeah.
I figure the start of September, we got 7 of them that we're going to put out, so be playing all over the place.
Getting intel everywhere. And
Yep.
Yeah, I got a couple more to put out. I was kind of waiting on to hear back from a different property, and that didn't end up panning out. So try and figure out where to deploy them out at, and really nothing too exciting on my end right just yet. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of off year for camera activity so far for me. So not really chomping at the bit by any means. I mean, obviously I want to be in a tree, but so I might be on freezer fill up duty here right away. I just might go out and smack a doe or two right away and
Get some
try and get that
queens.
over with. And
It's always fun though.
it is
Yeah,
big
for
time,
sure.
and it's needed. I mean, we've
Yeah.
just went through our last pack of hot dogs, and we got like 2 things of summer sausage left, and that's about it.
How's your burger?
What's that?
How's the burger?
Burger's doing okay. Not venison burger, that's all gone, but the stuff that I got from you was doing okay yet. So I think we got enough to get us by till season starts anyway. So
Nice.
but yeah. Another guest today, guys. Today we're getting the stash on. We're getting Zack Robb with Lone Wolf on today, and gonna kind of go over some gear setups with him, and talk a little bit about he's out in Virginia, so we're gonna talk and learn a little bit about the mountainous type whitetail hunting and the different tactics and stuff those guys are using and having to do to get on them. So should be a pretty interesting talk for us flatlanders anyway. So
Yep.
but yeah, we will take a few minutes and get him linked in, and we'll see you then. All right, what's up, buddy?
How's it going, man? Glad to see you guys. I've been trying to coordinate doing this for quite a while, and it seems like I've been the problem, but I'm here now. So
Yeah, no, we knew you were gonna get tied up too with roadshow and stuff like that. And that's actually kind of one of the first things I wanted to dive into, was to see how that went for you guys. Looking at some of the stuff that I got to follow along, on some of the lives and stuff that you guys did while you were out, it looked pretty cool.
oh yeah, man. This year, Ohio and Georgia were at new locations, and just absolutely beautiful farms. Like, I go on a lot of nice properties with what I do for a living and all, but these were, bar none, some of the most top tier properties I've ever been on. Beautiful farms, and just an awesome place to be able to camp for the weekend and talk deer and mess with gear. So then Virginia was, I would say, one of our best shows yet for Virginia.
All right.
And and so that's my hometown, is where we have that one. Super cool to always see, a lot of new people, but some of the same faces that you've learned from the years at these events. Road shows, they're, they'll tire you out doing three weekends in a row. I work full time for my construction company as well as help Lone Wolf, but hitting those 3 weekends in a row, whether it's driving or just, you're not necessarily entertaining, but you're being active the whole weekend. That really wears on you. I had like a whole week of feeling exhausted afterwards, which is crazy. Not 20 anymore, I guess, but
So were you?
But yeah.
Were you getting involved in? I know, kind of this year they twisted in more of like the fitness and kind of. I don't even know what everybody was all doing, but it looked like there was kind of even like a workout session that everybody
Oh yeah,
went on there.
yep. So the fitness relay has always been kind of a big part of the finale of the road show, and a part of who wins some top dog prizes. So this year, yeah, Cody and I and a couple other people kind of had some input on what the workouts were going to be, and they were brutal, but people showed up, and at the end of the day, 40 minutes of excruciating workout for the prizes that you get is worth it to me. I'd do it, and I wish I could. I wish I could have joined in on some of that. I joined in for fun, but definitely no prizes for me.
Right on.
Yeah.
So diving into some of the gear that's, I shouldn't say really, some of it's new, some of it's not, but one of the things that's really kind of been on our mindset or on our eyes is to maybe get into a set of the micros. And you said you had a set there.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, the micros are insane. So they're a different blend of aluminum than we've used in the past, which allowed us to kind of neck them down to, now they're 1/4 inch profile for each stick. So 3 sticks is 3/4 of an inch. They're coming in at just under a pound each. So yeah, and all the new double steps. So that's 3 sticks right there. All the new double steps have these nylon buttons that kind of align themselves into the stick behind it, and then the one piece of Velcro keeps them all tied together. So they're super streamlined. I can't think of any setup that this wouldn't fit into nicely. And then, like I said, just super thin.
Sure. Now when you're, are you running those this year, or what's kind of your go-to setup this year?
So I've been dabbling with running these, but last year I used the V2s, so the 17-inch variants of these for most of the season. I made some modifications to my .5 that allowed me to kind of pack 2 in the same profile on the stand, like where all the nesting ports are. I kind of twisted some stuff around to shift the sticks down so that they maintain the profile of the stand. I'll probably be doing that again because the weight isn't necessarily, like the weight on these is insanely light. But I'm 230, 240 pounds. So a couple 3 ounces a stick isn't going to kill me. I don't know. There's something about the V2s that I just really like, whether it's I don't know if it's the step distance. The stride feels right.
Sure.
They're a little thicker material. I just really like those a lot. Yeah.
Right.
But they have all the same new features that these do, like with the nylon lock buttons and all to interlock them, and the Velcro strap. The strap, they're recessed here for the straps. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
the straps kind of all fit nicely.
Sure.
So there were some updates last year, and they all have them now. So yeah, the V2s are sweet sticks too. They're, I think, 3 ounces more each or something. It's not a whole lot.
Nice.
Awesome.
So with your guys' platforms, I know Lone Wolf's been a staple with hang-ons forever, but we've seen that you guys are getting into saddle hunting as well.
Yeah, so actually, it's kind of funny. I think it was around 2006. The Lone Wolf Portable Stands company that Andre founded in 1984 came out with the Lone Wolf Assassin, which was the first cast saddle platform. So we've actually had them for a long time, but in 2006 they weren't cool. So they were around, and if you look on eBay, you might be able to find some, and they were going for some pretty big money there for the 10 years that they weren't around. But yeah, so since the craze came back, everybody wanted us to, I got it strapped on my desk here, but we have the Fix, which is our smallest one, which paired with these micros is insane. And I mean, they're kind of made for each other. So it's a sweet system. And then going up from there is the Ambush, which is slightly larger. I got stuff everywhere, so it's kind of hard to tell what's what. The ambush is kind of the same as the fix, but one size larger. So if you're a larger dude or you like to actually just kind of stand and not necessarily be leaning the whole time, there's enough room to physically stand and turn around on it. And then lastly, what came out last year and has been a huge hit is the Ranger Hybrid. So it's a saddle platform, but it has a post with a seat on it. So kind of looks crazy, but for those guys that like to hybrid hunt, or even just, saddle hunting in general, this allows them to stand. Obviously, when the seat's up, it acts like a normal saddle platform, but it's a much larger platform again, so you can stand. And then what a lot of people do is they'll fold the seat down. The tree is right here, obviously, and they actually straddle their knees across the tree and sit on the seat, so you can kind of rest your legs and not be actually suspended in that saddle. Right. The other thing people do is they'll flip the cushion to the bottom side. So the cushion's right here, and then it's your knee pad. So it kind of checks a lot of boxes that people were looking for. And what makes it unique over, say, our .5, which is what a lot of people were hybrid hunting out of, is there's no cables. So the .5 is great, but you still have to deal with the cables if you're legitimately saddle hunting. Whereas this is catered, to the guys that are truly saddle hunting. Which what I always tell people, if you're into hybrid hunting, whatever you want to call that, if you prefer to stay seated like a tree stand and just have the option to lean out, I'm going .5. That's what I personally do, and a lot of people do. If you're hybrid hunting, but primarily a saddle guy, or maybe coming from saddle hunting, where this is going to be more, your speed, then this is a no-brainer because you get the best of both. So yeah, I mean, we have so many options. It's been crazy, but it's always been that way. Every time we come out with something, somebody says, well, man, I wish you made it 3 inches wider. Well, 2 years later, there's one 3 inches wider. I wish it was 3 inches longer. Well, there's 3 inches longer. I wish you had different seat posts, different seat sizes. Now you can order whatever you want with whatever options you want on it. So we're checking all the boxes slow and steady.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, you're taking all of that information from these shows and from the people that you're talking with and hanging out with, even if it's just people even commenting online and stuff like that, and you're actually putting some thought behind it and, hey, obviously, can we do this or should we offer this type situation, and all the custom options that you can put together over there now. It's almost endless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so they're really good listeners, and they can kind of weed through who should be putting in input and who maybe shouldn't, So like I bought my first custom gear stand just like anybody would. And I think I bent a small insignificant part. So anyway, I just wanted it fixed. And I called, and it was Andre's number that picked up. So, first I was kind of in shock, like, holy cow, I'm speaking to Andre.
Yeah.
And from there, we talked about what I had going on and fixed my problem. And I think he must have picked up that, I'm a gear nut and kind of have some mechanical ability. So he asked me what other mods I'd done to my stand. And in that first phone call is when the J-hooks were developed. So that's been an essential part to the compact sticks, holding them to our stand for the last 5 years. And ever since then, our relationship has built to where I'm now a part-time employee and help out in a lot of different ways. And it's just been an awesome ride and very genuine, and get to work with some really awesome people.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is. I was gonna kind of dive into how you ended up there, or working with those dudes, but you kind of summarized that, I guess, for us right there. Yeah. Is that kind of where it started? Was
yeah. And then a year in, got offered to join in with Whitetail Addictions, and then Mobile Hunters United was founded, and I was brought in as an admin for that. And then, just slowly and steadily as the brand grew, it's like positions were needed, and I've been somebody I guess they could trust for the past 5 years to help step in and take care of things when needed. And yeah, since it's kind of crazy because like this is a passion of mine. I'm already a gear nut. I already, I'm addicted to chasing deer, so it's a no-brainer. Like, heck yeah, I'll do it. Why not?
Yeah, it's kind of essentially, getting into the things that guys like us dream about is to, eventually be in the space somehow with something that you love to do all the time and,
Yeah,
have that input or have that, I guess, inclusion with everything
right.
that's pretty cool.
And not make it feel like work.
Yeah,
That's the key.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So take us through, if you don't mind, obviously with us being, we're mainly in Minnesota, we do get to some other states and stuff like that, but we haven't really been over in any like rugged or really like, I guess, super elevated terrain per
Yep.
se. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe take us through kind of the areas that you're hitting up over there and kind of what you're doing or how you're setting up
Sure.
on.
So I've never been the best at summarizing what it is I do, but I'll do my best. When I hear guys like Chris Wiest or Ryan Glitsky talk about, how they're analyzing the mountains and going into it, it's like, man, I feel stupid. But at the same time, I'm getting in them, getting encounters. So I got to think, there's something to that. But, essentially, I can look all over the mountain and I will find deer in multiple places of a nice caliber on the mountain. I have no complaints about the quality of deer in my area. So they're there. That's step one, right? Is if you're looking for a 140 or whatever it may be, you got to have them to kill them. So I know that I can find them on my mountain. But essentially, I like to troll like different drainages with maybe a couple cameras. I don't run a ton of cameras. I have like 4 or 5. Bears eat them all, right? So typically, like in one specific spot, I found a bench that had a nice trail on it and beds on it and all that. I threw a camera on it and got a couple good bucks running through there in August, September. So that kind of keyed me into one drainage, and after some sits and all, can confirm it's a good area. Another drainage had a big creek running through it. Kind of, you scout in the area, you see heavy tracks, see something that makes you want to put a camera up, I'll throw a camera up. And what that'll do across the whole mountain is give me, certain areas to start. I think if you take on too much at one time, you're going to spread yourself too thin and maybe lose your mind. You might see some deer, you might kill a deer, but it's almost too daunting to just take 3,000 acres and go hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like, some of these deer up here were on 50-acre pieces. Easy to break down. You figure out where they are, you kill them. 3,000 acres, you got to almost treat it the same way. But with that said, the deer do, in my case, run pretty decent size areas. So it's tricky. That's all there is to it. It's tricky. But, some things to look at would be, avoiding other people is an obvious one. But don't kill yourself doing it. I got one spot, I call it a hellhole. It's a 2-mile hike down and around a knob, and kind of back up into a drainage that I had a couple good bucks in. I had an encounter last year, actually shot at and deflected at last light, which was a bummer. Saved me a heavy walk up the mountain though. But again, that was just literally from hiking down into a spot that I knew no one else was hunting, um, and found the tracks and the trails that I wanted to, and some big beds and some old historic rubs. That kind of plays a big part. If I see historic sign that looks like multiple seasons of use and can correlate some beds that you have multiple layers of hair under leaves and all that, then I know an area is being used. Um, I'm gonna let a camera soak or throw some sits in there and see what's going on. Um, but as I've told other people in the past, there's no secret sauce that I have found. It's taken me at this point 4 seasons of hitting that mountain hard, to kind of piece together some areas that are good in certain time frames, and apply that to what targets are in what areas. So
Sure.
it's kind of you could ask my wife. I lose my mind for 3 months out of the year. Um, but I think that's probably every whitetail hunter's wife maybe. But yeah, she puts up with me and lets me chase them. Like I said, blue collar dude. I work my hours. I'm also a volunteer firefighter, so it's hard to squeeze it in. On top of that, she likes to bow hunt too. So
Busy.
yeah, we try to, and we have 2 kids.
Yeah.
We try to get in there and get after it both, and just make a run for it when we get the chance. I don't wait for a moon phase. I don't do any of that. When I get a chance, I go.
Yeah.
And like last year, I had an hour after work. It's a 20-minute 4-wheeler ride and a 10-minute hike. So I did all that set up for 20 minutes of fading light, in a spot that I thought I had a chance. And something was wiggling trees around. I just never could see what it was, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
What kind of
I think it
elevation?
just, so you go ahead.
Yeah, just curious. Like, are you going up the mountain more, or down the mountain, or?
So my access trail that I can ride a 4-wheeler or even a Jeep up, it goes all the way to the top. And then there's some kind of splits down in certain areas, but for the most part, I'm going to be hiking down to get into my hunt. There's a very small portion of the piece I can hunt that's above the road, but those are not going to be long hikes going up into my sets. The long hikes are down, which is nice going in. It sucks coming out in the dark, straight up a mountain. The top of the mountain is like 2,600 feet, and then the bottom of the mountain is around 800, I think. So it's close to 2,000 feet. There I can hike. That hellhole specifically, I think it's 1,000 feet of elevation gain in those 2 miles that I go up and down. So I mean, it's fairly substantial. It's a hike.
Yeah.
It's not horrible. As I've kind of gone deeper into being a fitness Nazi, it's gotten better, but that's never stopped me before either. So I think the key to mountain hunting is just grit, honestly.
Yeah, that put me in the ground.
I don't know. But it is funny, like me and my buddy from Alabama, we went to Illinois a couple of years ago, and every year since. But that first year we were scouting this I think it was 1,000-acre piece, and midday we both looked at our phones and we'd each gone like 9 miles, 10 miles, and I was thinking, damn, it doesn't feel like I've done half of that. And if I scout 4 miles in the mountain, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really thick. The terrain is kind of unforgiving with the rocks and all, and the elk hunters would laugh at me, but I've been out there too. But it's a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like you're putting on a lot of miles. Now, are you using any hunting apps when you're going into your areas to
Yeah,
mark those historical spots?
I do. And that's kind of a big talking point at these road shows, where I may not be e-scouting much, but having the ability to mark scrapes, mark, travel corridors, rubs, other people's stands for that matter. And especially my access trails coming down through there, I'll run a track, and that really kind of helps me see the big picture as to what's going on, whether that's, where they're avoiding other people, where I think I could drag a deer back out to, or, the scrapes are key. I don't think I've ever actually killed one off a scrape, but knowing their travel, and, that actually was a big part last year. I had historically a mega scrape that was on one side of a knob, and then this season it was on the other side of the knob, and then they both went cold at the same time. And so I scouted between them and discovered that there was a whole trail of them going through a super nasty thicket. And the closer I got to the center of that thicket, the more red hot they were, to the point where that one in the center of the thicket, where there's literally an intersection of trails, it still had piss in it. And so I didn't set a camera or nothing. I sat there, and mega buck I was hunting for 3 seasons came into that. I didn't get a shot, but he was 14 yards for 15 minutes. We just had a standoff. So and that spot, a couple sits actually. There was quite a few shooter bucks I had coming through there. So yeah, that big picture on Onyx is super cool. I do like the LiDAR on Spartan Forge is super, super cool, especially if you're hunting stuff like strip mines where topography doesn't show you anything. That LiDAR is really cool. Matter of fact, I had a LiDAR map made of my mountain before Spartan Forge. I had a LiDAR map made, and it shows you a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. That was one of the coolest features that turned us on to Spartan Forge was, being able to remove that canopy and just find all the little, even if it's a little trench or a little, anything that you think you could either utilize for access or, stuff that you're not seeing through a basic map. But
yeah, the old logging roads and big rocks. I mean, that map right there, it's pretty old school, but it will show you some stuff.
Absolutely. Now, are you pairing any of your, like the e-scouting that you are doing, and then obviously with the years of knowledge and history in a certain area, are you focusing on like south-facing slopes, or like are you pairing it with like sunlight activity throughout the day as far as your thermals go? I would imagine your thermals are a bastard in the mountains.
So actually, it's kind of funny you say that. Thermals are the only thing I can count on. The wind is crap. Now, with that said, I'm primarily hunting a south-facing slope. To be totally clear, this chunk that I'm hunting is a large piece of private, but there's a ton of other hunters on it. Okay. So, and nobody talks. So it's very much like a public piece with more equalized pressure, because the access and people using four-wheelers and all kind of gets them spread out over the property more, if that makes sense. Yep. But I would consider it very similar or more pressured than public. And sometimes I think to myself, I'm an idiot for not, going into all the vast public that we have here. But to answer your question, yeah, it's a south-facing slope that I'm on. Okay. So I've never paid much of a mind to whether it was south or north-facing, because my property line keeps me on the south face.
Okay. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, kind of diving into the content world of things, and just kind of listening to some people that are in mountainous type areas, doing a lot of pairing with Spartan Forge just came out with like a sunlight exposure type map tool, or a layer that you could drop on there that gives you all the different areas that are projected at what times, as far as being able to try and calculate what those thermals are going to be doing at certain points in the day. And I didn't know if that was kind of a tool that you would see yourself using, as far as, if you were battling with certain thermals or whatever the case might be.
I would absolutely look at it. Like I said, those certain hell holes or whatever, they get certain areas that are shaded longer. That's definitely something to think about. I mean, I always tell people thermals, like when you start to feel the heat kind of radiate off of you is when it starts to switch. But I don't know. Thermals to me is almost just like kind of physics and chemistry. And you can, heat rises and it's going to follow the contours up. Obviously, I throw a ton of milkweed. Like that's one thing I've gotten pretty crazy with, because as things are always changing with the winds and thermals, I am less concerned about where it's going long term and more concerned about in my shooting area. Typically I set up on a trail with the intent that, if it's a morning hunt, I'm trying to set up, if I have a clue what time I think the deer might be coming through, I'll use the thermals either dropping or rising, and try to set up accordingly on the trail that I think he's going to be using. Because it's too hard for me to think about where that's going in relation to the whole rest of the mountain if I don't know exactly where those deer are coming from. A lot of people talk themselves out of hunts because, the wind's wrong, or, the thermals are going to be wrong for that sit, when they don't even know where the deer's coming from. It's like, okay, so what if you're blowing out a fawn and it's mama doe? If the buck you're hunting is uphill, I'm not too concerned about where my scent's going downhill. But yeah, the wind is always swirling. So I kind of use the thermals more to my advantage than the wind.
Makes sense. Yeah, you have to adapt with kind of what you can more or less count on, I guess, in that case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I know you said you hunted out in Illinois. Have you hit up any other out-of-state spots?
I have not. Yeah, Illinois was so my first week in Illinois was 2022, I believe. Yeah. That was my first out of state and first public hunt. Ended up killing on the last evening with 5 minutes of light left, so that was pretty cool.
Nice.
I'd love to get out and get after more states, but like we said, I got a family, I got a job, I got a vacation. So if I had it my way, I'd hunt for 3 months and I'd go everywhere. One day that may happen, but at this point, it's kind of like pick and choose a couple things. Don't know that I'm doing Illinois this year. I think if I had stayed home last year, I'd have another mega on the wall. So that's kind of playing into my thoughts going into this season. But I'm still open to it. Hell, if I kill one in October, I might be making a trip.
Sure.
Yeah. So when you're going on something like that or going over to Illinois, is there a mindset there of like, God, these flatlanders have no idea? You know what I mean? Like,
all right. Yes and no. I mean, obviously there's tiers, right, to people, and what they're willing to do. But it was funny, like we hit this new property, and the first thing my buddy in Alabama did was he called the ranger station and said, "You got any tips for knuckleheads like me?" And he said, "Yeah, man." And I guess my buddy had the map open, and he was like, "You see that area? That's where I'd go. Whenever there's pressure, the deer run in there because it's super thick and nasty and steep." And so my buddy said, "All right, that's where we'll be." He's from Alabama. He's hunting actually, kind of mountainous stuff there too. That's thick and nasty and sucks. So he's used to all the things I'm used to. So we get there and we're talking to some guys, and yep, that's where we're going. He said, "You don't want to go there. It's super thick and nasty and steep." And we said, "That's exactly why we're going there." And I'm not kidding you, within 10 minutes of my buddy getting sit up, he had a 160 come at 8 yards. It was too thick. He didn't get a shot. And we were in bucks the whole week. So it's kind of been that way. And last year I had a lot of bucks come through too, not necessarily the caliber I was after. And again, it's super thick, which makes it hard to get shots. But,
Sure.
you know, it's kind of like do what others won't. My first time in Illinois, when I did kill, we ended up basically the access was easy. It was on a horse trail, but it was still like 2 miles, mile and a half to the spot. And immediately was in deer. Now it took all week to find it, but that's what some people don't do that we do is look until you find something worth hunting. So many people, especially you got 1 week to hunt, never seen it before, I'm getting in a tree. Well, that's a waste. Unless you're super lucky, which I'm not, that's a waste of your hunt. I would rather scout 6 of the 7 days to know that I'm going into the right spot on the last day than to hunt all 7 days. You know, this isn't an outfitter, right? Nobody's putting you in the right spot. You got to find the right spot. So I would never go in somewhere that I have a ton of confidence in, set a camera and wait 3 days on an out-of-state hunt. If I found something I was confident in, I'm going to sit there and see what the hell's doing it. But, you know, and another time in Illinois, I was second to the parking lot. Dude drove from Georgia to get there. So I'm thinking, man, this guy, that's dedication. I said, well, you got here first. Where are you going? I don't want to mess you up. He said, oh, I got a stand right there. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, like 40 yards in the woods right there. I'm like, dude, come on, really? All right, well, I'm not going to mess you up because I'm not hunting the parking lot. Which, you know, maybe joke's on me. Maybe he killed a 160 or something. I don't think so, but you just got to be willing to go the extra mile when it's necessary.
Sure.
You know? And I would say, I think too many people that maybe do have aggressive tactics out of state don't apply them at home either. That's something I could take away from those hunts is bringing it home. How many times do I just, well, this has been a good spot in the past and just sit and wait. Go find something that's worth hunting before you kill days or weeks of your season.
Sure. That's kind of one thing I was going to ask you. Are you hanging and banging all of your sets, or do you have a few permanent, like, go-to, like, historical, hey, I got to go over and sit this, you know, November 4th or whatever?
I have 0 presets, and I do that for a reason. It's not because I don't have trees that I sit in multiple times. There are. Because, this buck here, he was killed in an area that was off of historic data, and it was like I found this area getting super hot with scrapes and all, and I would sit it, but it was too late. They had already made those scrapes. So with this buck, which is the buck with the bear, I sat that hunt the week before I was, you know, registering all the sign, and he came in, and I killed him. But the reason I don't have presets is because I never want it to be a thought in my mind like, well, I got that stand over on that ridge. I could just go over there and it'd save me setting up in the dark. That has never put me in the right spot. I wouldn't say it's a lazy mindset, but the easy way out, I don't know. It just seems to me if I have a setup on my back, I'm always going to go where I know it's going to be the best hunt and where it's not going to be just the easiest to set up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Kind of avoid complacency, if you will, of, you know, just that, like you said, it's not necessarily lazy mindset, like you said, but more of to take that equation out of it of being able to go,
Right.
hey, I'm running late, I'm just going to run over to this stand or whatever the case might be, you know.
Yeah, as Goggins would say, never let the inner bitch win. And I think that's been a key to, I wouldn't say my success, but keeping me in the game more often than not.
Sure.
Yep.
So typically, do you have you said earlier that you're grabbing a couple sticks. Are you running 8ers on them, and what's kind of your sweet spot, or are you kind of targeting different heights on every set, or are you what's
So
kind of your go-to height in a tree?
yeah, Cody a couple years ago, he talked me into trying 2 sticks. He said just see if it messes you up, or if you like it. So I did. And it was kind of funny. It put me from, the mindset of I got to be as high as I can. I don't know about you guys, but here on the East Coast, it's like everyone's mindset is Summit Viper, get 30 feet in the tree. It's everyone. Well, when I got into these hang-ons, 18 foot was, plenty high. And as I messed with 2 sticks, which I do use the 17-inch V2s with 17 or 20-inch cable laders. I don't know what length they are, but that's all I got, and that's all I take. And what I have found is I'm not looking for, super high spots with shooting lanes. I'm looking for thick, nasty spots within 15 yards of where I think that deer's going to be with 1 or 2 shooting lanes. My body is concealed a lot better, and the biggest thing is I'm not skylit behind me. That skylit area, where you got white clouds or clear blue skies kind of sticking out. Anytime you move, man, that sticks out to deer really bad. If you got, thick undercover or treetops behind you, maybe some brush in front of you or to your side, something to conceal your body as well as break up the background, it's just a lot better. I've had more close encounters in the past several years with these stupid low sits. Like last year, I should have shot him, but I didn't. A 140-inch 10-pointer at like 4 yards, and I was 4 feet off the ground because that's the only cover I could find in that area.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was super cool. Circumstances led me to not shoot him because we have a earn a buck system. And I was saving that tag for the big one I had just had an encounter with. But yeah, so no, I'm typically on a normal hunt, I'm somewhere between 8 and 14 feet. That kind of depends on the topography, but I'm never more than that because I don't carry any more sticks than that. A good setup in my mind, we got a lot of laurel, and so I'll use that to my advantage. So I might be 6 feet where the laurel's just kind of like right here and I can shoot over it. I really like that. Or, we got a lot of younger trees that are at that 10 to 12 foot mark where I can kind of conceal myself in the cover of them on a larger tree, if that makes sense.
Okay. And as far as your scent goes, did you see a difference there as far as, were you getting winded more or less, about the same?
No. I mean, there's several thoughts with that. The higher up you are, people think your scent is maybe less, but they got really strong noses. And the higher up you are, it's kind of like your scent cone gets wider, in my opinion. Staying low to the ground, as long as I've set myself up where I think, the thermals, or if I can count on the wind to not switch, if I can set myself up to where there's a consistent pull away from where I think where I'm going to have an encounter with him, I'm good with that. I don't care about what's going on much farther. But no, I haven't been busted more, maybe even less, because I'm thinking about it more as I've developed as a hunter myself. Yeah, it's never, like I said, I had a 140 at like 4 yards last year, 4 feet up, pretty much eye to eye with him and listening to him breathe. So yeah, it didn't hurt my chances. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be, I guess, taking hold of, like, and maybe there is something to the evolution of a whitetail, but I can recall several times, whether it be just historically getting popped in a certain area, but to where, not even necessarily a deer that has busted you, but just almost like a reflex that they have to check that 16 to 20 foot area when they're looking up at that skyline first. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's intentional, if they think that way or whatever the case is, but it seems like the longer I've been bow hunting, the more or less that, especially that old smart doe.
Yeah, the does.
Like she freaking has you, whether you're concealed and not moving or whatever. It's like, it's almost like she just knows that that's the sweet spot that she needs to be scanning at when she's out, when all the other, when the fawns and stuff are out eating.
Drives me nuts. Yeah. They'll come into the field and they're downwind or upwind from me, and she'll just stomp, blow, turn, and walk, and everybody else is looking at her like, "What's your problem?" And I'm like, "Whatever."
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Just go away so you don't sit there and blow all night at me.
I almost think they get educated. All it takes is one time.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, it's we hear it all the time at these road shows. People saying, "Well, I got to get high." Around here, the deer walk through the woods and they look up and to try to find us. We got to get super high. And it's like, well, if they're looking up, why would you go up there?
Right.
Yeah.
But it takes a mindset to try something like that, and that's what Cody tells everybody is, well, why don't you try it? And if it doesn't work for you, it might not be for everyone. If it doesn't, decrease your odds, then keep trying it. And yeah, I mean, it's certainly nice to carry less stuff. It's
Absolutely.
less to set up. It's less sketchy and daunting in the dark.
Yeah.
It's been all positive experiences for me.
Yeah, like I said, definitely something to consider, and just trying to change up a few things and get out of that mindset of always having to do that same thing and always having to get to that same height. And, with us, a lot of the bigger public tracks that we're going into, for the most part, we're one sticking them. And as I'm sure that the setup there, when you're trying to make multiple moves, one sticking, there's no efficient, clean way of doing it. I mean, it's a lot of things going on, and you're usually pretty much drenched in sweat by especially early in the season. And it's like, maybe one move wouldn't be so bad, just like trying to get at the top of your reach,
And that's what reminds me when we were down in Missouri and you crawled up that giant tree.
That frickin' cottonwood, I had to get that high.
Well, you were up, I don't even know, what was it, 20 feet or so?
It was like 30. And
Yeah, I got in. I think I was probably 8 feet. And I didn't even put my platform up. I just stood at the top of my stick. That's where I was at.
And
For
me growing up hunting, it was always, the higher you are, the better off you are. You're beating their scent. You got to beat their nose, and that's what I trained him to do, And,
Right.
And over the years, I'm 18 feet top, 16 feet, 14 feet. It's just you don't need to be that high.
No.
How many deer a year are killed from a 12-foot ladder stand from a dude ripping cigarettes? It's
exactly.
It's like whatever. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's whatever makes you feel confident. And so I've developed a confidence at staying in that 8 to 12, 8 to 14. And so I'm gonna keep rocking it. But yeah, I mean, the one sticking thing, I never got that. That never appealed to me. So kudos to you guys. But you won't catch me hanging upside down trying to grab my stick. Yeah.
Well, you answered my question, so you must be a hang-on guy then, huh?
That's for sure. Yeah, the .5 is my go-to. I never expected I would be okay with that small of a tree stand, but the more I got used to the 1.0, and then I dove into it, it was like, yeah, I mean, I feel safe. I know where my feet are. There's certainly no extra room, but I don't need extra room. The efficiency it gives me crawling through the thickets and not sticking out of my profile at all anywhere And like even just the size of it in the tree, I can get it in certain trees that I couldn't get a larger stand. So it really helps, you know, hunt the deer and not the right tree. Where, you know, I'll even say I can get it in more trees than anybody can get a saddle. There's bar none. Um, I tried saddle hunting for a moment, and the very first tree I set up in, I had to like spin around and do some really weird stuff to have a shot, you know, because you're facing the tree. So you got to have kind of the right tree with a clear spot to shoot in the areas that you're in. So this tree specifically had a huge vine on it, which I was using in my hang on as cover. The vine with all the brush growing off of it, I was kind of schnooked in there real nice. Well, setting up with the saddle, I had to face it because I couldn't be in the vine. So then I had to spin around on this little teeny platform and try to awkwardly, and it's like, man. So that was I didn't try it for very long. I will say that. But once I kind of got my system dialed with this 0.5, it's I haven't really even been looking for anything else.
Nice. Right on. So are you hunting any areas that you're going to like you know, ag or food plots or field type settings, or is it pretty much all timber, rugged ridges?
Yeah, it's there's a couple like clear cut fields, but I don't necessarily see them there in the daylight at all. So it's primarily just going to be acorns and briars and browse. You know, they're my whole mountain is covered with briars and other browse. So when they're not seeking hot acorns, um, they don't have to go anywhere. That's kind of the tough part about it. Obviously, food and does is what kills bucks primarily. So when they're not looking for does, you gotta really narrow it down to where they're eating because there's no specific reason for them to be in any particular area. They can eat anything all over the mountain, which kind of makes it tough. But
Yeah, definitely.
somebody told me years ago, it was like, Zach, you're wasting your time. Hunt the small pieces, the farms, whatever, until the first week of December, then go on the mountain. And I was like, you're full of crap. You just don't know how to bow hunt. Well, no one killed anything on my whole mountain, all 45, 50 people. Nobody killed anything worth of crap. First week of December, 5 hammers were killed. And I was like, damn, what the hell? Maybe there's something to this. So, and that is kind of when that second rut hits around here. Now, granted, that's rifle season, so people have extended their range. There's no leaf cover, so that definitely helps with that. But the bucks are on their feet searching for those does that weren't in their core areas, and you know, there's no hunker. Like the deer have to move some, so for them to be seeking that second batch of does, they're going a good ways. And I mean like 5 miles. One of the bucks I was hunting got killed 5 miles on the same mountain, but 5 miles away. The buck I was hunting last year, I think it was probably 2 miles, 3 miles from where I had my encounters where he ended up dying. So it is crazy, the mileage, but if you look at the map, it doesn't look like it's that far because you're still talking about, you know, one main ridge. So he's hopping around the top and going down that ridge. So yeah, I mean, the distance adds up, but that's probably why our deer aren't 300 pounds. They're not at the buffet. They're like, you know, running to get a sandwich. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it's fun though. I like the challenge. I had some decent farm properties that I enjoyed the challenge of hunting deer on those, but something about the mountains is different and just makes you want to explore.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, getting, like I say, going into that world with certain people, it's like they're straight killers, it seems like, and I think it's for a reason. I mean, once you could figure out a really daunting terrain like what you're doing, I mean, it, like I said about being a flatlander, I think it kind of, and not to speak less about anyone else's situations, but I think it just kind of
Keeps the
lightens
people out of there too.
yeah, and it lightens it up to where it's like, okay, I've already done this extremely difficult thing for several years now. So it's like now, like what your situation was in Illinois, it's like, oh, you mean that little ridge over there is tough to
Yeah.
get, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it seems like it's a kind of like a different breed, I guess, is what I'm getting at, to where it's
Yeah.
like, you can,
Well, there are great hunters everywhere, and the key takeaway that I've learned from some of these road shows, and especially having guys like Cody in my back pocket to talk to and bounce ideas off, Ryan Glitsky, Nathan Killen, a lot of these great hunters nationwide. It's cool that all these things are applicable to everyone, but it's like your terrain has terrain features, mine are just exaggerated. So you can apply all the same kind of stuff to other areas. Now, maybe, if you're in straight up flat, that's maybe different. I would probably feel totally out of place, honestly. But yeah, it's any kind of terrain is somewhat applicable. Mine is just exaggerated beyond some others, and that there's plenty of areas that are more steep and nasty than mine too. So.
sure. So when does season open there for you?
Uh, It's the first Saturday in October. I think it's like the 4th, maybe
Okay, so a little
3rd or
bit
4th.
later.
Yep. And I just discovered a huge nick in my string on my RX-8. So we're getting down to crunch time to get that fixed. But worst case, I got the old trusty recurve I'm planning on killing something with again this year too. So
Cool.
it's kind of like if it pushes me that way, whatever, I'll do it. But I'm hoping to get that Hoyt fixed up too.
Right
It's always
on.
crunch time. I don't do a ton of summer scouting or anything. Matter of fact, I've done zero since season ended this past year. I've done nothing in the mountain. I find it's just chaotic all summer. Try to get some family stuff in. Beach work is crazy, and trying to catch up on projects. So when it's hunting time, it's hunting time, and still work, but at least my time outside of work is kind of more dialed towards hunting. Um, and it's, in my opinion, I like to do it that way because I know that it's relevant information. Um, you know, Scouting in January and June, it's great. And it's all pieces of the puzzle, especially that right after season, that might tell you a lot about late season next year. But when I find deer in June, it's typically they're gone in those areas in September. I don't know why that is. September is typically a big shift here. So I go looking more around the time September hits, put the fishing rods away, and really focus on deer and get into deer mode and plan for that opening week and the weeks following that. And like I said, if I haven't found my spot that opening weekend, I may sit somewhere historical in the morning and I'm gonna scout all day and find somewhere for the evening, and do that same thing until I see what I need.
Okay. So
Yep.
pretty much keeping cameras at a until you find something basis. You're not running any cameras any other time of the year, I'm assuming.
Yeah, like I said, I'll probably, since I now have a couple of areas that historically have produced inventory for certain areas, I will likely throw some cams out next opportunity I get. I mean, I'm itching to get up there, and I'll put maybe 4 or 5 cameras out. I don't run a ton, and that's on 2,600 acres. So that's been a big thing for me as well. Is like I'm not letting the cameras. I'm not hunting the cameras.
Yeah.
I'm letting the cameras maybe tell me what zone to start in. But from there, I'm not going to, like, if I got a buck daylighting in front of a camera every day, okay, I might hunt somewhere near that camera. But I've had cameras keep me away from deer too often. Or even in one case, I used a cell cam because I was like, man, how nice is it that I don't have to hike down in here and into this bench and check this camera. It was showing me this buck was coming in there 3 or 4 times a week, like all through August and September, and he stopped end of September. I was like, damn, all right, I should have figured that, right? Whatever. I never even checked the camera, never hunted that area. Knowing it was a good area from years past, I didn't hunt it because nothing was showing up. Well, a year later, I go to check that camera and pull it and put new batteries, whatever. That buck was there in October too. The camera just didn't send me pictures. It sent me random doe pictures, but it didn't send me any pictures of that buck. And I felt, how stupid do I feel that I let this piece of crap, piece of plastic, tell me not to hunt here when my mind knew this was a good area. So I've ever since then, I'm not going to let that be a thing. I do think they're valuable, especially to guys who can't hunt 5 days a week. If it narrows down an area versus it being better than another area, that is huge. But like I said, I'm always going to be boots on the ground to find what I want to find rather than let a camera tell me what to do kind of deal. That's been my mindset the past couple seasons.
Right on. Yeah, that's, leaning on that when you can get on that super fresh sign like that. I mean, that's above all just, like you said, not even worry about hanging the camera. Like, if you're coming up on a scrape that was just hit within hours,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to set up a camera and wait to miss him. It's like,
if you have to, set that camera up as you're leaving. But if it's that good, you should probably just sit it.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, cool, man. I think we're just about at an hour here, and I don't want to keep you all night. I know it's later over there for you, so definitely appreciate you coming on. It's been something that I've been looking forward to here for a while now. So
yeah, I'm happy to have finally made it happen.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to actually get to talk to you a little bit and stuff like that. But we wish you luck. I look forward to following, and see what your season turns out for you. And I'm hoping that maybe next year we can get out to one of the road shows or something, depending on how things are going too. So it'd be nice to meet you in person, or maybe catch. I don't know if you're going to go down to like Deer Classic or something like that next spring, but
we'll see. I never know. I never know where I'll be.
Right.
But it'd be a pleasure to meet you guys in person for sure.
Well, that was pretty awesome. Finally getting to talk with him.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's been a kind of what he was saying there. We've been going back and forth now for like 4 or 5 weeks on just things not lining up. And,
Busy guy.
Right.
Yeah,
a lot
for
of stuff
sure.
going on.
And I knew with their road show stuff coming up that he was going to be kind of pulled in.
I didn't know that they had more road shows stuff going on right now. That was more out east, or?
Yeah, they did like Ohio, Virginia, where he's at. I believe they did one down in like Georgia or something like that,
wow.
and then they ended it. They end it down in Iowa.
Okay.
For like the finale type deal or whatever. So
Sure.
But yeah,
Cool.
It'd be cool to go and check it out. I'm not a workout guy. I mean, I know you do stuff and stuff like that, so I'm not really into like the whole fitness thing or whatever. Like, as long as I can get up and down a tree and
I'm never
take
going to
care
be
of
able to
things.
go kill an elk unless it's down at the bottom. It's just not going to happen for me, man. It's just not my...
But, that's not the only reason, or that's not the only thing, obviously, they're doing there. They break down a lot of, and there's a lot of, like, for, like, even, like, new hunters or people that have always been, like, maybe, say, like, a box stand or a fixed location guy or a ladder stand guy that wants to get into, like, mobile hunting. They break down a lot of different scenarios on even the farms that they go to. That's why they go out on location, is, like, they look at topos. They talk about why they would hunt certain areas
Sure.
and areas that they would key in on and stuff like that. So, you know, to get down to one of them, I think would be super informational as far as just learning
And getting
different
to talk with
tactics
everybody
and
too, yeah.
and man,
Seeing how someone else breaks it down, right? I mean, you always break it down how you're going to break it down, but to get that little extra, oh, I never thought of that.
exactly. And like we've talked about, like even with talking with, you know, the other Cody in the past, you know, a couple episodes ago or whatever, it's like you can take a lot of things away from these younger dudes too now. You know, they're aggressive, they're
Well, and the more guys that are out doing what they're doing, like they're not sitting in the same stand, which I'm very guilty of, right?
oh, same here.
You know,
on the
but
you know, on
but
the
just
private
the more
side of
you
things,
see, the activity you see, the how deer responds to a different scenario every time you're out instead of the same thing. You know, so
Right.
that's huge.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely, you know, and there's a bunch of just absolute lethal killers that hang out with that whole crew and associate with them guys that I think a guy could really, you know, you start talking to some of these dudes and you can really get a lot of pointers and tips on different type settings to apply. So
For sure.
it'd be cool to get down and see at least what's going on there. But yeah, another exciting thing I guess that we didn't talk about in the intro is Reveal by Tacticam brought us on. So we're definitely super stoked to be involved with that and happy with being brought in with that. Colin Mann with Mann Consulting, we've kind of been talking with him and working with him when we can, and he kind of set that up for us. So big thanks and shout out to him.
Yep.
Thanks and shout out to Reveal, obviously, that, you know, for bringing on some guys that they really don't know or, you know, have any history with or anything like that. So,
Yeah, it's appreciated for sure.
Very much.
so yeah, with that being said, I think we'll wrap this one up. Thanks a lot, Zach, if you checked this one out. Again, it's been a long time coming. Was super stoked to talk with you. And thank you to our partners, Monster Buck Food Plot Seeds, Spartan Forge Mapping, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, of course, and Dialed Archery. We'll catch you guys next week.